I think that Maria is a Jew because every time she keeps saying, like, she sees a soldier walking around their house or something, she always ducks her head, and she's like really shy in front of like the dad, and said that the dad does not treat her well, and the dad is like a soldier, and that just like makes me think that she is a Jew.
I had that same annotation because she made me think of that and how she like started talking about the father's job. How she's like, well, he thinks it's important, but she didn't specifically say she was against it, but the way her tone, she talked about it.
I bounced off of that. I had just about the same thing, but I added to it with the how the sarcastic, because normally people, like, if they work for someone, they're rather quiet because they don't want their job to be at risk. But she seemed very sarcastic about the dad and his job and how important he thinks he is, and how the rest of the soldiers do the same.
So what do you guys think like that soldier was doing in like their father's room?
I think it was some very important business pertaining to maybe Hitler or something, or the maid.
I agree with Chris because they said that Hitler was going over to dinner at their house. So obviously the father works closer to Hitler, and then the other soldier works for the father, so they're all kind of together.
That must mean that his father is a pretty high rank, or maybe even runs like a concentration camp, something.
Like whatever that word is.
Auschwitz,
No,
Birkenau.
no, it's the name of the leader. No, it's like the leader of a concentration camp. It was in night.
Director.
I can't remember.
Commandant. Commandant.
Sure, I don't know. Remember?
Don't be director.
Crystal and Emily, what do you guys think about the how they said he didn't have as decorative of a uniform as father did? Do you think that means he's a higher rank, or what's your opinion on the situation?
Well, I think that probably the soldier who came in there like has worked for more time than Bruno's father had. Like probably. I don't know.
Crystal, what about you?
So since he had it was less decorative, I personally wouldn't think that he was as high up in the rankings as the more decorative soldiers. So he could be still working his way up to it.
I agree with Crystal.
Me too. You guys think that the fact that he was in their house, but he didn't seem to be at the same rank as their father, have any particular effect on the situation? What about you, Ty, anyway?
Actually, I think the reason why they moved is because rather Hitler ordered them or somebody higher than Bruno's father on ranking told them to move to this place so they could do what they have to do. What do you guys think?
So I'm questioning with that is we don't specifically know what Bruno's dad's job is. We know it's something to do with Hitler and soldiers, but they didn't really specifically say what it was.
Maybe he's one of those Nazis that actually goes and collects the Jews, but he could also be one of the ones that actually runs a concentration camp.
That could be.
And I think that they moved because I think that now that they're in the middle of nowhere, maybe they're closer to concentration camp. So maybe it's easier if he does run a concentration camp, maybe it's easier for him to run it since he lives so close to it. Because he says he lived on a street in the middle of nowhere and with no houses around it. So he could live near a concentration camp.
They also mentioned that they had to move, or I think they could have moved also for some type of safety because his father is a Nazi. That Bruno's mother mentions when we have, like, he starts talking about how they have to turn the lights off at night for safety, so I'm assuming that's, I don't know, if they're just nervous about getting attacked because they're Nazis and they live in a community of Jews, and I think that could be a reason why they moved.
I want to direct this a little bit to refer to our learning target. So, starting a brand new book, we are capable of analyzing the setting and the characters a lot. So we have brand new characters, 2 new specific settings, but then setting also involves time period. So we know we're still within like World War II, 1930s, 1940s time period. I think that is something we can analyze and how it might be affecting the story already. So anything you guys might want to say about the 2 specific settings, and there's quite a list of characters that we could start to infer about and maybe give some opinions about all of that too. Go ahead.
Okay, well, with the setting of like it being like around World War II and stuff like that, it kind of makes sense why Bruno is kind of possessive and like he's careless and bossy because like he hasn't like, he doesn't really understand, I guess, what's really going on during the war. He just, like they said, an 8-year-old mindset.
I was gonna say that about the 3 new maids that they find out about in the new house, I think they have some kind of tie to the concentration camp because they're skinny and they're quiet, so they probably have gone through some kind of trauma in their lifetime.
Maybe escapees, like they were in it, but they got out. Nobody knows about it.
Maybe they like Jews that like they put them in the house like 4 maids because they have like some of the Jews are like workers, like that's what they're in a concentration camp for. Just want to be a worker and it was their job that they were assigned.
That would explain why father's so mean to them. Why he's always bossing them around.
It's a really good idea, Eli. Ty, what do you think Bruno would do if he found out about the whole situation? And what his father does?
Honestly, I don't think he'd probably get more upset already than he is, because coming from like the new house and everything, I don't think he likes that. And if he found out that his father was a Nazi, or probably is, I don't think he'd be very happy about that.
Do you think his name would be more important to him than knowing what's right?
I don't think so.
I personally don't think he'd really care, because he's an 8-year-old and he probably thinks whatever his father does is like the best thing in the world, because it's kind of what you think when you're an 8-year-old.
Probably thinks it's right.
Yeah, you always think your family's right, and because he's already seen that in the book, that he always thinks his father's right and that he's doing the right thing and that he's so great.
And when you're 8 years old, I mean, you kind of grow up around those kinds of opinions, so you kind of let them grow on you, and you just get used to that fact that, like, that's how the world kind of is, so you just kind of grow up with that.
I actually had a text the world, kind of with what Marty was saying about the maids, is in Unbroken, Louis would work out of the concentration camp to get like full meals and stuff like that. Well, POW camp, yeah. But I was wondering if like those people who are working in the house are doing that same thing to get more like kind of special treatment compared to the other people. So.
If we float through some of the other characters that are not mentioned as much, obviously we know a lot about Bruno and his attitude, but with Mother and with Father and with Maria, all of them at some point have expressed a little bit of attitude about this scenario. What do you guys think that is and why?
I don't think that Mother likes the whole idea, because she said that, like, Bruno said that her eyes were, like, red, and he said that that happens after he cries, and he didn't really connect the dots, but we can infer that she actually was crying, and I don't think that she's very happy about having to move for this.
Yeah, I think the mother knows what the husband does like completely, and I feel like she just doesn't agree with any of it.
I also think that Maria and Lars, they talked about them, the butler and the maid, fighting like a lot about the Nazis and kind of what father his job is, and I think that's kind of saying that one of them is completely against it and lets people know, and the other one is either against it and doesn't really say anything and doesn't want to get in the middle of it and lose their job, or is for it.
Abby, any thoughts?
I have a feeling like Maria is the one who's against it because like of her like sarcastic manner towards like Bruno and stuff. But I don't know about like Lars. What? Lars? Yeah, I don't know like what he's thinking.
What do you think he's thinking, Ty? Do you think that he could be Jewish too?
What about the whole how mother is so strict on manners? Do you think that relates more to the country they're in or the time period they're in? And how does that affect the setting?
Probably a mix of both. Yeah. Because not only was being polite highly valued back then, but I'm willing to bet in places like that, especially in their home where they're rich, being polite is probably very important to them.
Especially around like if his father's like Nazi and stuff like that, he's gonna be, his training was very strict, so he's gonna bring it back home and be strict on all of them. So it's gonna kind of like project off on everyone.
Emily?
I think like Bruno's mom is trying to like show Bruno how to like respect people too around, not like his father like disrespects Maria. Yeah.
What about you, Crystal?
Well, with the politeness, like, I think there's the time period where like they want everyone to be polite to each other, but like also they could want him to be polite like if like soldiers or come by, and if he like disrespects them, they could get angry.
I want to ask you guys, what do you think are the real differences between time period? I mean, you know, we talk about politeness. We still use that and we talk about it, but what are the real differences between, let's say, 1940s and now with the word politeness?
Well, back then, probably politeness was probably like, it was saying thank you and stuff. Kind of like now, but probably back then. It was probably a little more because now we kind of just say thank you and it doesn't really mean anything, we're just saying it.
Just kind of reflex.
Yeah, I think like discipline has changed a lot too, so now if you're not as respectful, I think that the discipline isn't as high as it was then.
I agree completely.
Being politeful doesn't seem quite as important now as it did back then.
You accidentally trip someone, you say you're sorry, and then you just walk away. Back then, you would probably say sorry, help them up, buy them a soda. Like, you do more back then than you probably do now. Words now.
I think
What-
also another reason why his family's always polite and taught to be polite is because purely the fact that one time Hitler just came over, had dinner and left. What if he came over again, was disrespected, then maybe imprisoned his father or something, or like enslaved his family?
Yeah, his father could lose his whole rank because his son said something bad to Hitler because Hitler ran the whole country.
Is it possible at all that we could, the inferences we made about this family, and we made inferences through like even the setting of their original house, could help us describe their level of politeness?
I think Bruno is kind of almost like a little like
cheaper back then, based on how rich his family was.
Yeah.
We can go on for another minute or so, please. I'll look that up.
And then like with hers, when she was saying about like the richness back then kind of, I feel like it kind of gave them more like power and class, because that's what the big thing was about. It was about money and wanting money. And now like I feel like money is still really important, but like you don't really act like it. If you have money, you don't necessarily act like it. Well, some people don't act like it.
Any thoughts, Eli?
Caleb Martin to the office, please. Caleb Martin to the office, thank you.
What do you guys think of this family, I guess? You know, if we have to infer and build any opinions about them as a whole family, what do you guys think?
I think this family is just based purely around the father and his power and his in the army.
He goes and they go.
Like, if his father lost his rank, they'd probably lose everything, because he's probably making tons of money being a Nazi.
I feel like a lot of other people in their family don't agree with their father, like the mom. She doesn't want to move, and she doesn't want to do all that stuff, but I feel like she's like scared to like say something about it.
I also think they get a lot of respect just because he has a high rank and they seem pretty rich. So I think back then with the time period that if you had more money, you were given more respect, and you just are treated better. And there was some mistreated to like poor people.
Yeah, like a lot of the respect seems to be all about the money. Like if you have more money, the more respect you're gonna get, and you're not. If you don't have a lot of money, you're probably gonna be disrespected.
I think the reason for that is because Germany was in the Great Depression type era of their country, so they didn't really have much money as a country in a whole. So.
Abby, do you think his father is like being the soldier he is out of trying to get the best for his family, or just because he enjoys it?
I kind of think he's like trying to be like a better soldier to like earn money, so like kind of for like the good of his family, like trying to like help them like money wise, but I don't know. He really seems like he likes what he's doing. Well, he's acting for his mates too. Yeah.
Dustin, were you gonna say something?
Do you guys think Mother will have a say at all?
No,
I don't
I don't
think
think that.
I think she might.
Yeah, I
Like
don't think
eventually
father.
maybe father just ignores her.
See, I think if it,
I think this time period, women aren't as respected as they are now, and so father just doesn't really care so much as if he would care for her now back then.
see,
Do you think if women right to vote here in like, I don't know, like 1920, like not super long ago?
Yeah, well,
Well, they
that's,
got
not too long in history.
bunch
For
of
a long
rights.
time, everything was done by men, but I think between, we look at father-mother relationships, I think there's a big difference, what Chris is saying here. You know, back then, it was kind of like head of the household father, right? And then, you know, mother was, a lot of those moms, were just stay-at-home moms, or, you know, and now they're a rich family too, so she's probably just a stay-at-home mom, and in that case, if it's his job describes everything about that family, is she really gonna have a say at all? Or do they even have a choice? You know?
Yeah, I think in that time period is more about like a man and his wife and his family. Like he was kind of the only one with real authority, like in the family and with, I guess, other happenings that he dealt with.
I feel like since the mom is, like you said, a stay-at-home mom, she kind of takes care of like making sure things are clean and Bruno and stuff like that. And I feel like if she had a say about something that happened to the son or with the cleaning or something, I feel like people would listen because that's like her area of expertise, and like they do respect that much of a woman back then.
I don't think that father really cares at all. I think he cares more about what, like, he has to get his stuff done, and if she gets in the way, then they just solve that by yelling. Like, that's what it seemed like when they had that argument, which he's just said that the mom was yelling and the dad yelled louder, and then that was over, and Bruno didn't really understand that they were fighting and having an argument. He just took it as somebody was beating each other with their voice.
That makes you wonder why they got married at all in the first place.
So, do you think that they got married before he became a soldier or after? Do you think that could have made a difference in her decision? Did she know?
Well, it could have made a difference on like her thoughts of him doing what he's doing now. So like if he hadn't had the job and if she really liked his like personality, like she could have done it. And if he was one, really it would end on like her feelings for him as a person.
I think they got married before Germany's Great Depression, and that just like they probably were more in love, to say, than now, because now that Bruno's father is a soldier, he is less caring about the mother and more about himself, so he's more selfish now than he was probably before the Great Depression.
People got married earlier back then, so maybe they got married at like 17, and then he became a soldier when it started. Maybe it was like 20 then.
He's not just a soldier. I mean, he's a
Yeah.
soldier dealing with having dinner with the
I
Fury.
agree.
You know, he's having dinner with what we would call our president. That's a pretty big deal. So he is going to take his job that seriously. It probably engulfs his life completely. Probably engulfs their family's life completely by this point. So we're going to wrap that up, guys. Really good discussion. I like to see that we were getting each other involved, so thank you guys for doing that. And everybody had their chance to speak. You guys are digging into concepts that we would have never probably imagined or saw if we were to just keep on reading. So there's so much to say already about the characters and about the setting, and really good job. We need to get the tables back and